Welcome, everybody, to tonight's coverage of the Ages Executioner League. I am your host, Wood DeVerny, and joining me tonight is not our usual caster, but I have the express pleasure with casting with the Bully tonight. How you doing tonight, Bully?
I'm decent. It's pretty goddamn hot in my room because the AC is broken, so, I'll be sweating casting this game. Maybe it's going to be a good game, and I'll sweat even more.
We are hoping so. We've got two teams that are looking to bounce back after a pretty rough week. We've got Conduit Esports Makima and the Shattered Spire. Shattered Spire went up against Dorado Gaming and lost 0-2 last week, and Conduit Esports Makima are having a very rough season this early on into the split. We're here in week 4, and they are currently 0-3, still looking to pick up that first win. We're about to round out the first half of the season, and it's a little shocking, I think, just starting to talk about these teams, to see the state of this Conduit Esports Makima squad. It's a lot of names that, if you're a fan of the AEL, you have your OTFs, your Mays, you have these players that are known to the scene, have performed very well on rosters in the past, but just haven't managed to make it click together at this point in the season, which is looking a little scary for them, I would say.
Yeah, but, there's no time like the present. They have some time to actually turn it around because, starting 0-3 is rough, but starting 0-4, it makes it almost impossible to make the playoffs. And I believe it's top 4.
I believe you're right. It should be top 4 for each division going into playoffs. So they do have a chance to get themselves back on board here and start locking some things away. But they've got a pretty tough matchup. The Shadow Spire is currently 2-1. They ate their first loss last week. So they're still feeling pretty good despite their loss to Dorado. I think the Dorado squad in their half of the roster, which is, I'm reminding myself, Iota, is seen as just one of the strongest teams in the AEL currently. They're currently undefeated. I think most people have predicting them going 2-0 pretty much every single week up until the finals. So tough loss to eat, but a kind of an expected one. So I don't think the Shadow Spire should be feeling too bad about that one. And now they have a chance to bounce back and find themselves a new victory over this Conduit Esports Makima squad, assuming the game goes as expected tonight.
Yeah. There's always something about an underdog buff where it's a team that's not performing to expectations where they turn it around. And the funny thing is the 4th place team in Chemtech is only 1-2, so it's not far out of reach to actually
it's not impossible to jump back up.
And
we are just waiting for
today could be the day. You never know.
Today could be the day, but we are just waiting for the draft to get started up. The team's taking a little bit of extra time to get ready. Predictions coming into this series. There is a slight note we should say that Conduit Esports has lost 2 bans coming into this series as they are using an emergency substitute. But I think even still with that, the matchup should be even-ish, I want to say. As much as I think the Shadow Spire has had a really good start, I think they've had a fairly easy strength of schedule compared to a lot of the other teams in the league. So I think 2-1 is possibly a little bit deceptive. We'll have to see as they come around tonight, but I'm going to say 2-1 in favor of the Spire. I'm not confident in the prediction. It could easily be 2-0 either way, depending on how the teams are feeling on the night. So, I don't know. We'll have to find out.
Yeah. Both teams actually just have so many people that are well known to the amateur scene. And, they've been under pressure of not only being in spots like these where they're both like on the fringe of not making playoffs, or maybe their games weren't as competitive as the other teams in the division, but they know that they're gonna treat every game like it's gonna be the last, where they have to win and win out to just solidify their own spot, because every team is under their own control right now. And I think this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a good match. Unfortunately, we just got word that Draft Lull has gone down again. I think this is about the 3rd time this month that the site has been having struggles. So our production in the back, Wookie Monster, is just going to be setting up a different view screen, getting Pro Draft ready for the team. So it's going to take us an extra minute here. So I wonder if we can just look back at the schedule that Conduit has had recently. I wouldn't say that their schedule has been incredibly difficult. I think a lot of people would coming into the season, at least looking at week 0 and just looking at, again, those names that you expect to see. The expectations were pretty high for this Conduit roster. Not only is it a Conduit Esports team, which overall, I think Conduit is a name that carries a lot of weight in the amateur leagues. You see a Conduit or a Dorado and you're thinking, okay, this is a team that can carry itself, expected to go to playoffs at worst, fight for a finals at best. So seeing them at 0-3 at this point in the season, it can't feel great for any of the players.
No, yeah, and like you said, it wasn't like they're playing against just the best teams consistently. Like they still have Dorado left in their schedule. They lost to Big Chiller, so they already got them out of the way. But this is going to be the turning point. Is if they can't beat Shattered Spire, they're going to good chance lose to Dorado, and they're going to at best be 2-5 at the end of the season. And I don't think that's going to get them a playoff spot.
Yeah, 2-5 most likely is not a playoffs entering roster, but we are going to be stepping into the draft, and now a little bit of a scout setup, but working on the fly, it's just kind of what you have to do for now. We are jumping into the bans. Conduit on the blue side and Spire on the red. I'm wondering what sort of the meta focus is going to be for both of these teams. If there's going to be any sort of like big AD carry buffs, as we've already got issues with the draft. I'm sure we'll get updated on what that ban exactly is in just a moment. But for now, I'm curious to see whether the teams sort of have their priorities lying.
Yeah, I feel like for Conduit at this point, it might just be comfort and
despite having mentioned it myself, I forgot that Conduit is down 2 bans, so they are going to lose 2 here on this first round. It will take down to 30. Hacker is the first ban for the Shattered Spire, is focusing down that jungle pool a little bit. So with all these extra ban slots freed up, a lot of the meta champions probably getting out and into the open for themselves. I wonder what the priority is going to be, since Conduit does have blue side coming into this matchup.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to end up seeing a Shyvana. Shyvana's been popped up as a very, very strong jungler. It's actually insane how strong the jungle role is right now. You could be like 2 or 3 levels up on the 80 carry, and it's wild. At some point they're going to tune down the jungle
I hope
experience, but that's going to be bad for a little bit, like a couple of jungles that struggle with like their first clear, second clear. Aphelios, first pick.
Wow, that's locked in. Okay, Aphelios is the grab for Conduit. A comfort pick, I would say, for Mei in their ADC role. I'm interested to see how they perform, because Aphelios, like Jinx and other hyper carries like them, is a champion that really does warp a draft around them. You do have to say, like, hey, you kind of just have to pick everything around this champion now. You've got to draft around it. You have to make sure that this is going to be the champion that is going to be the focal point of your entire draft, because if you leave them out to dry, they're just not going to be able to find any value. They're not going to be able to play fights how you expect them to. And if a hyper carry is not able to get online early enough, doesn't have enough resources, they're just going to be absolutely useless.
Yeah, they're going to have to make sure they draft properly around this Aphelios, especially because of the econ. Just making sure Aphelios catches waves, gets enough CS to actually get into that late game power spike 3 items where they can actually 1v9 a team fight. They use a Jarvan just to lock people in place. Not locked in quite yet, but looks like that's going to just time out. And yeah,
I don't hate the Jarvan pick. I think it's good, like you said. I'm surprised to see both Olaf and Jarvan this early on into the draft. I think more often than not, for the priority in junglers really is those APs, your brands that did meet the bans, but like Shyvana, like you mentioned, Zyra, Lilia, these are these champions that have been some of the highest priority, I would say, overall. So to see both of the junglers potentially, as Olaf could flex up the top, be more of the AD bruisers, it's a little surprising for me, at least.
Yeah, I think they just want that power pick. Mid lane, Orianna being taken, so they already want to show that wombo combo. It's actually a very strong, mid-game comp they have with the late game Aphelios as a threat, and it's all about trying to get there. And I want to see them prioritize of not forcing early team fights, especially with the comp they're going against. They just can't fall behind early if they want to succeed in the mid-late.
Yeah, he's going to be, I'm assuming Spire are probably going to target down that support pool a little bit. There are a couple of champions that pair up pretty well with that Aphelios, the Thresh being one of them that's hovered right now. Maybe even something like a Nautilus, if you wanted to pull away from that laning phase a little bit, force them into either Engage or Enchanter. But with the Bard Sivir already locked in, I'm going to be honest, Sivir is not a champion I'm seeing very often, pretty much anywhere in pro play or solo queue alike. I don't really know what her real role is going to be outside of just activating this Olaf and making sure that he can get to that backline and start shutting down that Aphelios.
Yeah. Funny thing is, there's actually a lot of strong supports still available. I wonder if we see like the Nautilus come out, or just like even Leona, something of that nature.
Yeah, I would not be shocked if we just saw the Nautilus paired up with Aphelios. I think Lulu is another common pairing with her, as Spire are hovering this Tristana, and she's, despite the nerfs, still probably one of the best mid laners in the game right now. She's just so good at wave clear, at pushing, at roaming, at tower taking. It's just kind of what she does. That, in my mind at least, says that the Olaf might be going top lane, because this composition now really does need ability power, and with Gwen and Mordekaiser are already off the table, a lot of those normal AP top laners are already been taken away. So if that Olaf goes towards top lane and we see like a Lilia or a Zyra picked up in the jungle, I wouldn't be super shocked.
Yeah, honestly, with the comp that Conduit's running, I wouldn't be shocked if they end up picking the Karthus R5, just because, you know, Rel, Jarvan all going to the Karthus, and then the ability to...
Top?
Is it?
I mean, if they were picking up a Karthus, I would assume that they would be running Jarvan top.
No, for Spire.
Oh, for Spire, sorry.
Spire, yeah. Obviously, for Conduit, I don't think they're going to go Jarvan top against an Olaf. I don't think that
does well
into Olaf at all. But they end up taking the Ornn, which might struggle a little bit on the sideline, mostly because Conduit picked, like a team fight heavy comp, where if you leave this Olaf alone, especially if Spire kind of targets the grubs, Olaf will take every tower on the sidelines.
Oh yeah. We are also assuming that the Olaf is going to go towards the top lane. It could still flex.
Nope. There it is.
This is a super AD heavy composition, looking down the barrel of Jarvan and Ornn and Rel. And I'm going to say for Spire, I'm actually a little worried now. I thought for sure there was going to be some AP locked in on that 5th pick.
Yeah, later in this game, this Ornn is going to become unkillable. They don't have to really worry about any AP threats. They can just stack up that armor. And not only them, the Jarvan can as well. The Rel can start stacking up armor. It's going to be pretty difficult. There's 2 champions that can try to break through that front line and get to the back line, and that's just avoiding the front line altogether. It's just Olaf and Camille, but it's a tough ask, honestly.
Yeah, I think Spire have set themselves up for a pretty difficult game. If they do start to snowball with that Tristana and with the Camille, I can see it getting out of hand, but I think for the most part, Conduit have set themselves up very nicely here for a very simple scale up, play safe in the early game fight, or when we get to like level 6, level 8, maybe even level 11, if you want to wait for that, just give up a couple of dragons, give up a few grubs here and there. Just play more for that late game as opposed to Spire, which is, hey, if we don't snowball at past 15 minutes, if we're not like 2-3k gold ahead consistently, we might just lose.
Yeah, and the way to get ahead is trying to target those grubs, especially if they go 6. And the point still stands, not because Olaf is going jungle now, it's because they still got the Camille.
Camille,
yeah, and then Camille just getting the tower side lane and then be able to flank is the major threat that this Camille has to offer. And I would hopefully expect Spire to go for the grubs instead of trying to target the dragons, because I think it just fits their comp a lot better.
I do also think that there's going to be a Conduit probably focusing mostly on the bottom lane. So I wouldn't be shocked if Spire just says, hey, you're playing Sivir Bard, Bard's going to roam, Sivir can just sit down, pick up a static shiv, wave clear it out versus Rel Aphelios, and just play absolutely passive laning phase. And they play, like you said, more for that top side, more for their grubs, get Camille ahead and out of her lane, get Tristana that first tower up against the Orianna, because Orianna is a very squishy, very immobile champion. If it does get caught up by an early gank that either forces a flash or picks up a kill, this game can go absolutely out of control.
On the bright side, the gank potential of Olaf is pretty blah, but this mid lane matchup is so Tristana favored. Tristana can easily just jump in, Rock can jump in, and just have health Orianna whenever she pleases, and that's what Conduit has to worry about. Is they're not going to have a lot of lane priority mid lane. They're going to have to sack a lot of this neutral space, and then look to retake it with numbers later on in the team fights.
Yeah, Conduit have a pretty easy scaling composition, but it's going to rely on them not getting behind in the first 15-20 minutes of the game, whereas Spire really do need that lead. They're trying to snowball this game out of control. And while we think about how these drafts are going to work out and how they're actually going to end up on the Rift, we're going to take a short break before we get on to the rest. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for game number 1 between Conduit Esports Makima and the Shattered Spire. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for game number 1. It's Conduit Esports Makima, and it's the Shattered Spire. Both of these teams looking to bounce back after a rough week 3 here in week 4 of the AEL. Some interesting drafts from both sides. I'm interested to see what the heck we're going to be looking at here in game number 1.
Yeah. This is going to be a wild one, I think. I think it's either going to be just a one-sided affair, or we're going to get to the late game where, you know, it could be like the Spire winning by just a little bit, but then massive team fights from Conduit can bring him right back. So it's either going to be one-sided from Spire, or it's going to be Conduit taking it out in the late game and winning the game.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think I fully agree with you. I do think if this game goes late, it is just going to be Conduit favored because they have very easy to access frontline and their build paths are real easy to run through. It's not that much of a problem for them to just stack armor. We mentioned in the draft that Shattered Spire went very, very AD heavy. So I'm interested to see how they're actually going to manage to play around that. If it is just going to be trying to outside lane with Tristana Camille, or if they think Camille does enough true damage that frontline's not going to be a problem. These mid and late game fights are going to be something to behold for sure.
The problem is for Conduit is if their Orianna and Aphelios just get targeted, they don't have that much damage left in the tank, and it doesn't matter how tanky that, you know, the Ornn or Jarvan gets, they're just gonna get melted with 5 very high dealing damage champions on the other team.
And something I'm curious
Dominic's
about,
and I am too, so.
something I'm curious about is whether CZI has been paying attention to a lot of the Ornn one tricks and high elo Ornn players up there, as we've got a level 2 for Chungsomo in this bottom lane. That's the advantage of Bard, just getting that level 2 advantage first. But I wonder if CZI has been paying attention to a lot of the high elo one trick Ornns that have been playing, because Ornn has changed a lot recently in how his build path has to go because of the new item upgrades and the fact that you can upgrade any item in the game. It means that if you want to get the most value, you do have to be kind of careful with what item you build first, what item you build second, and especially where they're positioned in your inventory.
Yeah, I think in the top side, I've seen this matchup quite a bit. It's late in the game, it just feels like Camille just, or I would say not later in the game, I'd say the mid game, Camille kind of takes like a heavily win against Ornn, but in the early game, like levels 1 through 5, actually maybe 1 through 6, Ornn actually does a lot of damage because of the base damage in his kit. So if you're the Camille player, you got to be very careful. But Synthwave actually takes a quick back here. Won't need to use a TP, and it's going to be one longsword up.
Yeah, nice little 3-minute crash there to get an early recall. I wonder if CZI is just going to go for the like Bramble Vest Thornmail first, or if we're going to see like some sort of Sunfire item. As long as I don't see a hint of magic resist in the members of Conduit Esports, I think I'm happy. But regardless, I think we are in for a pretty slow early game. I think it's really going to be on the junglers or the mid lane specifically, where we're going to be seeing any sort of action. It's just going to be a matter of where they manage to get on the map first, as we did see crispy1 trying to get down there to the bottom side, but sort of sniffed out as the wave is pushing away from him, and now he might actually have a scuffle over the bottom side scuttle as Chris is going to grab the knockup on Chungsomo. Vidality is going to get the engage down on him, and that's just an easy first blood over to Conduit Esports. Goodbye, Bard. Conduit's on the board.
Yeah, the Bard tried to, you know, just buy space for the Olaf to actually. Oh, but we got a
knock in the mid lane. Wanderer maybe in trouble. Does have that rocket jump away. Now crispy1 potentially the target, which a Black Mass is nearby, so I don't think they want to go too much harder. No summoners lost for either side, just a little bit trade of health bars there.
Yeah, good trade. And on a note, Wanderer doesn't have any more pots left in the tank, while Yellow Swag FTWR has two, well, now one basic pot and 2 potions. Or 2 biscuits. So they're going to be pretty healthy in this lane, and it's going to force Wanderer to back pretty soon.
Yeah, Wanderer does have that teleport, so it shouldn't be too bad. As potentially into the bottom side here again, Chunks almost very low on this bar. It has to be a little bit more respectful, I think, of the early game of Aphelios damage. Is going to be forced to use that portal to get the heck out of dodge. As Boostis is also going to take a decent chunk of damage off the back of that as well.
Yeah, and that's going to spell some bad news for the bot side of the Spires. They're going to be trapped in their own turret at the point while both neutral objectives are going to spawn. Dragon already spawned. The grubs are going to come short after, and both junglers on the top side of the map.
I wonder if with the early bit of priority that you have with CZI up here on the top side, getting that early lead over Synthwave, if there's any sort of possibility that you can play for the early grubs, just try and take 2 away or even 3 if you can fight for it and just play to slow down the grubs. If you can deny the Void Mites especially, it makes your late game a heck of a lot easier to play through.
Yeah, even if you actually just go there, just might like basically take 1 and run away, and then probably set up for Dragon, so just you don't give up the Dragon priority as well, because that could be the late game win content you need is at this point. Because your bot lane is doing super well, you could take this Ocean Dragon pretty quickly and start that Dragon stacking to the point where, you know, a soul at 22 minutes would be pretty huge on the side of Conduit.
Yeah, it is a nice early run from Chunks Almo there to get up to the top side, though, so no contest available for these first 3 grubs. Shattered Spire should just be able to grab these pretty easily, and like you said, Crispy One is just going to rotate down to the bottom side with Vidyartha and Koopa, and they're just going to be able to knock down this Ocean Dragon. I don't think there's really a chance of Boostis on his own to come down for any sort of steal or contest.
Yeah, I don't think Wichita Black Mass is going to actually go for it. He's just going to go start clearing. Just gonna start peeking at that Dragon Pit real quickly just to see what's going on there, but you know, it's just gonna be a trade in neutrals, and I just as expected, Spire does go for the grubs, and you know, they're only gonna need 1 more to actually proc the grub mites or the void mites to do a lot of damage to the turrets, but they want 6. If they get 6, these towers will get 1 shot by this Camille.
Yeah,
and Tristana.
Camille Trist will shred these turrets like butter. So I think it really is on Conduit Esports to try and find some sort of angle or avenue to contest for the next grubs, but I think it is going to be very difficult because by the time they spawn up, it really is going to be starting to like scale up in power here for the Shattered Spire. You're going to have Tristana probably at least on half an item, if not a full item, if she can get some extra plates. You're going to have Witch of Black Mass active on the Olaf. He's going to pop that Ragnarok and get onto Koopa. Flashes forward onto AE carry, and Koopa already burned the flash, already burned the ghost. Goodbye, Aphelios. Witch of Black Mass picks up 1. Boostis is just throwing the boomerangs into the back, and Chunks almost going to steal that one away from either his AD carrier or his jungler, but it's a nice gank at the bottom side for the Spire.
Yeah, Koopa actually had the timing, and we just see the jumps in mid lane, but Koopa actually had the timer to actually just flash immediately, but they thought they could outrun, but they got stunned up by the Bard, and it just spelled their death. They even flashed as well, so to add insult to injury, they used their sums and still died for it.
Yeah, I think losing your flash after the fact is just added insult to injury, because it does mean that Witch of Black Mass can just kind of run back down again, especially if Chunks Alma hits level 6. As we've got Wanderer jumping in mid now. This is really when Tristana starts to get active. She's got her tier 2 boots, which means that Yolo Swag is just going to have no damage to trade into this Tristana until she starts to pick up more items. By the time Orianna gets more items, Tristana also has more items. It doesn't get any better for the Orianna here, is what I'm saying, in the 1v1.
Yeah, especially because the Orianna first item is going to be the Seraphs. It's not going to be stacked in time to the point where you're going to get that lifeline. Oh, looks like CZI was caught shopping, but they'll be fine. Synthwave is actually pretty low, while CZI is pretty healthy in this matchup right now.
It's a little chunk in there on the Synthwave who gets that precision protocol back, but yeah, I'm going to be honest, I've seen pro players do it, I've seen amateur players do it, I still don't like this Seraph's first item. I don't understand why you don't just sit on tier and look for your second or your third item before you pick this one up, as CZI is maybe in trouble here on the top side. That undertow did land, so the slow came through, but CZI does have the flash and the dash, so we'll be able to walk out, and now it's trying to turn around with that call to Fortgod, gets a nice 2-minute knockup, but it's immediately Ragnarok's by Witch and Black Mass. CZI finds the kill onto Synthwave, though, but now they have to try and get out and get away from this angry Olaf. The undertow lands, one more axe into the back of Crispy1. You have to respect the Olaf damage.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage from the undertow. Oh my god. It's like...
Yeah, that ability is disgusting.
It just does so much. It's like 200 health per axe, and you know, in a fight that looked pretty bad for Spire, as the fight was turned around and on top of them, they were able to pick one back up. And for the Olaf, to that matter, which, you know, at the late game, Olaf will just run through your entire team. It doesn't matter if you're a front line. No CC will stop them. Just run directly to Koopa or Yellow Swag of TRW or WR, and then just kill them.
Yeah, it's no longer the Gore Drinker Olaf that used to give players nightmares back in the day, but he's still fairly strong. They gave him some extra tools to make up for the loss of that Gore Drinker sustain, so he's just gonna be rough if this Olaf can continue to get off the ground and continue being online. And speaking of getting off the ground and being online, Shattered Spire are looking to just play for this spawn of grubs. They've already rotated Boostus up to mid lane. They have Wonder on the bottom side, actually, clearing up this wave. No TP available, but the grubs are already started up, and Crispy1 is now finally going to get into the pit, but they've guaranteed at least got one spawn. We might look for some kind of contest, as they know Witch of Black Mass doesn't have flash. They're going to take down the Olaf, but he'll give his life to pick up grub number 5.
Yeah, but in the end, yeah, they get a kill, but the Spire was on top of that. They actually had lane swap completed, where they sent their bot lane to the mid lane, they sent Wanderer to the bot side, and they were able to get 2 grubs, so they'll still have the power of those Void Mites. And bot side, Cooper and Wanderer are going to go at it.
Yeah, Cooper popped that Moonlight Vigil and the Ghost. They're looking to try and find a lethal there, but with the Buster Shot, you just can't get close to the Tristana. She's just going to be able to walk away from that one, as it's a flash forward from Vidyarthi. Doesn't manage to find the stun, though. Now Chongsolmo can maybe look for some sort of turnaround, but here comes that Magnet Storm. No Shockwave available, but the Cataclysm is. Chongsolmo goes down. Boostus is forced to flash out of that pit, and now it's just Witch of Black Mass trying to fight it out in inside the pit, but nothing doing for the Olaf. It's a double kill picked up for Crispy1, and Conduit Esports Montana are going to manage to stay on top of the game.
Yeah, the Shockwave was used in that grub fight a little bit earlier, but it did not matter, as Cataclysm was available for Chris and was able to use it on all 3 members of Spire, getting 2 kills. And unfortunately, none of those kills actually went on to the Orianna in the mid lane. So you're still going to have a little bit of wait until that Orianna becomes very strong, but you know, might see a gray screen soon enough.
Level 6 available for Chongsolmo, but I think he just now got it because he just tagged the ult. He didn't have it for that fight, so Yellow Spike will be able to walk out, and that's second Dragon for Conduit Esports as well. This is pretty much exactly what you wanted from them. I think if they had gotten 1 or 2 grubs more on that second spawn, this would be pretty much a perfect early game for them.
Cloud Soul is actually kind of nice for them. It's at least it's not Chemtexel. If it was Chemtexel, it'd be very unfortunate.
Extra yes, to get away from Olaf. Doesn't hurt.
That's true. They're on pace for that. Let's see, 22-minute kind of soul, but you definitely know on the 3rd dragon there's gonna be a big fight for it. So in that fight, Conduit has to try to get a pick or look for a fight with Vision a lot sooner than the dragon spawns, because if they are stuck in the pit when the Spire is just gonna collapse on them, they're just done for.
Yeah, especially with level 11s are going to be hit by the soul laners fairly soon, and that's going to be far before that dragon fight does actually happen. So you're going to be dealing with a spike to Camille. She's got her Triforce already. She's going to be very, very strong. Boostus should be hitting level 10, level 11 soon. Doesn't have that first item yet, but does have the Cull, so not too far away from it, I would predict. And it's not going to be much better for the members of Conduit Esports here in these fights. It's just going to be a matter of how long can they keep their leads for, as the Magnet is going to pull the flash out of Chongsolmo. Trying to get the flash out of the Bard ulti, but just doesn't manage to find the angle. Koopa flashing into gold, and it's an escape for Chongsolmo, but the Bard has not been having, I think, the most influence in this game so far.
Yeah, I mean, flashing right there, I don't think you actually get the kill, and now you're just you're just the target for the rest of the Spire.
Yeah, Chunsomo might actually be the target though, as he's just gonna get knocked down by the turrets of Koopa, which Black Vessel trade one back, but I don't think they want to dive a turret against the Conqueror of Felios. Yeah, Koopa is dangerous enough that you have to respect, as we got to fight in the top side as well. A nice little hex tech ultimatum to get away from the call of the Forge God, but CZI still wins these trades. I think Synthwave has to be a little bit more careful. You gotta respect that Ornn. Despite the item advantage, Synthwave maybe still in trouble as Yellow Spike is here. Flash and Shockwave available. They're just gonna trade Flash for Flash.
Yeah, and the Shockwave, though. I think the Shockwave could have been held on to. You saw that Flash coming out a lot faster than Shockwave came out, so Shockwave will be used. That won't be in the arsenal for about a minute, but the Dragon is not available yet. The Rift Herald will be coming up quite soon.
Yeah, Rift Herald actually got taken there by Crispy One while that fight was happening, so a pretty
That's actually huge.
Yeah, pretty big pickup for Conduit Esports. Not letting the Olaf Camille team have this Rift Herald is good to see for them, as we're gonna start to slow down a little bit here. I think importantly, we're not seeing first items yet for Boostus and Wanderer, and they do need these items pretty soon, because if this Dragon fight happens and they're still down in terms of value as Wanderer backs and picks up that first item, it's going to be a bit rough, as Koopa has managed to stay relatively even, has a kill in their own pocket. That Cull is almost stacked up. The Infinity Edge for Felios is almost online, and 25% of the time, he can't just knock down your team with an Inferno ulti.
Yeah, the Cull is actually almost done as well, so that Infinity Edge should be completed by the time Dragon spawns. I wonder how this Rift Herald is going to be used, though, if they're going to end up using it as, like, trying to take down one of the towers in the side lanes, if they're going to try to open up the mid lane, or if they're going to try to use it to gain space with the...
I like the attempt, just didn't get the Cataclysm down onto Wanderer, so the Shockwave doesn't find the target, and now Dragon's up in 1 minute and 15. I don't know if the Shockwave's actually going to be up. That cooldown is going to be fairly close. It's gonna be close, but it should have it. Yeah, it's already a cooldown. It's been like 20 seconds.
The good thing is that the Seraph is actually complete for the Morgana mid lane, so they have that added safety net against this very high damage comp from Spire. They're just trading blows in the mid lane of just trying to clear the wave and kind of back up. Guard just rolling up just to get some vision down. And
yeah, Vidyarthi is also here, gonna drop that ward, but has to be careful about their health bar before this Dragon does spawn. They got about 40 seconds. Vidyarthi actually looking for an all in here with that Magnet Storm, but now with Black Mass is here. Vidyarthi is the target. They're getting autoed down. The exhaust doesn't do anything to the Olaf in a Ragnarok. It's the faded, the Tempered Fate doesn't hit anybody there from the Bard, but it's already a win for the Shattered Spire, and even with this Rizzo popping in mid, I think they're in a pretty comfortable position.
Yeah, and the Shockwave wasn't available, just barely, and
they finally find their combo. They're gonna smack down Wanderer off the back of that jump. Crispy One finally gets that combo locked in with the Shockwave, and now no mid lane or no mid turret. Suddenly Conduit Esports has full priority on this Dragon, and they're gonna look to try and just take this, I think, in the face of Shattered Spire.
Yeah, they don't have any ults available, like major ults. They don't have the Shockwave, they don't have the Cataclysm, but on the side of the Spire, they don't have that many major ults available either, so this should just be third Dragon secured by Conduit, just putting them on Soul Point where, you know, it could be the turning point, especially since they do have that gold lead.
Yeah, that's a pretty big win for Conduit. I think even if the Soul itself is not going to find the most value in this game, this team getting to Elder early and making sure that the Shattered Spire is always just kind of on the back foot, can't really play the side lane because the objectives are so important. It's kind of, again, the spot that they want to be in. They're up about 1,500 gold at 18 minutes. Give them 2 more minutes, and I think this team is just going to be comfortably moving and scaling into the late game.
Yeah, and the top side, you really don't have the space that you thought the Camille was going to buy. Both towers are still up, and so far CZI is getting the better of Synthwave.
Yeah, upgraded Thornmail. I think that has 95 armor on it with about 400 health. That item is makes it pretty damn tanky, and without the what was that item called? Not the Sundered Sky, the Green Sheen item, the Tank Shredder.
The Rune Sheen. Oh, you're talking about Divine Sunder.
Divine Sunder, yeah. Without Divine Sunder, Camille does struggle a lot more into these tank matchups, even when she does have access to that Triforce.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that you have a small window as Camille where you could easily trade quickly into the Ornn in the early levels,
but you gotta make sure you're smart with it. And if you take too long with the trade, the Ornn can use just the brittle stacks and just take a lot of that health back. And I feel like in the top lane matchup, they did get a good gank up there with the Olaf, but looks like this tower is just gonna be brute force down.
Yep.
But yeah, and this is more money in the pocket of CZI and Chris.
Yeah, and I think money in the pocket of CZI is a pretty big deal because we mentioned that this Ornn getting online and getting tanky is a fairly important part of this Conduit squad, as Synthwave may be in trouble, does have a hookshot. Walleye is going to get out, but still get picked up by that knockup. Knocked up again, smacked down. CZI will find their second kill. Now Vidyarthi trying to get engaged in the mid lane. 2v3 though, but they're going to be able to find boost just regardless. Which Black Mass trying to auto down Vidyarthi, but the tank stats just too damn good for the realm. Knight's Vow's a little too overpowered. A nice stun there for Jung Soul to try and get the team out, as a nice flash away from the Flag and Drag as well is going to keep the Bard alive, but the Shattered Spire getting shattered here in game number 1. This Conduit Esports looks like a totally different team from their first 3 weeks.
Yeah, in the bot side, Tristana was knocking on the door of the tier 2 bot side tower, but so many plays. Oh, the plays aren't done.
Goodbye.
Almost is dead.
Wander now in the 1v2 on the bottom side has to be a little bit careful. Teleport's coming in from Synthwave, but I don't know if they'll be here in time. Now that TP's coming through from CZI as well. Synthwave, you gotta be careful. You're now in a 1 versus 3. He's got a sprint and a still holding onto that flash, so he'll be able to make it out. But man, Shattered Spire looking rough in this game 1. It's just not their game.
Yeah, now they have the timer just to take this tier 1 tower in the bot side. This gold lead was about like 900 2 minutes ago. Now it's spiraled out of control to 4K in this side of Conduit. And with this dragon stack, 3 dragons in the bank, they should be able to win a straight fight for this dragon in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, I don't really see an angle for Shattered Spire to actually get on this map and get to this dragon in 2 minutes time. Like, they're gonna be able to knock down this mid turret, pick up some objective bounty for himself, as Koopa is gonna have that the shockwave on top of himself. But now Vidyarthi trying to get engaged on the mid lane here. Boost is the one in trouble. Moonlight Vigil's gonna go absolutely nowhere. Alistair's gonna pop that on the hunt. She should just be able to run it out and make it out alive here, so no issues for her. Did end up losing the ultimate, but for all the resources that Conduit Esports burned, that's not exactly the spot that they were hoping for.
Yeah, there's a lot of zoning ultimates that are just used there, as you know, none of them connected, but the play was there. It was just kind of disjointed. They didn't know exactly what the target was going to be. Vidyarthi was going for Boostis. Boostis was caught up, but just not enough damage to follow up, as the Koopa wasn't there immediately.
Yeah, I think if we do start to see Koopa getting a little bit more active in these fights, as they're going to start to finish up with that, what I believe is going to be the Lord Dominik's regard for them. Yep, grabbing that second item nearly at about the time this dragon spawns up. Again, this is working out perfectly for Conduit Esports. They're not behind at this point in the game. The snowball has failed for the Shattered Spire, and now it's just a matter of how cleanly can Conduit Esports start to close out this game, and can the Shattered Spire make any sort of silent shenanigans happen? Can they make life difficult for the members of Conduit? Can they find some extra gold in the side lanes? Can they make life difficult for CZI trying to manage fights and towers, as Boostis is in trouble? They're going to pop that Temper Fate on him and keep him alive for a little bit longer, but it's just for a little bit of extra time. A Golden Wrath present available for the members of Conduit Esports, as YOLO Swag will finally pick up their second kill. CZI, I was going to say in trouble, but at the same time, it's Ornn with 2.5 items. I don't think they ever kill CZI here. He can walk back in. He's got the full stack bomb on him, and he's still just about half HP. Now the Magisword's going to pop in for Vidyarthi. Synthwave has rotated over. Ragnarok still on for Witch of Black Mass. They have to be a little bit careful of the Olaf, because you can't peel him off. And now Koopa stuck in that Hexical Ultimatum, but has the red blue, which means you gotta respect the heals. Shattered Spire falling apart here in the fight, and it's just Conduit Esports all day here in game number 1.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think they ever were targeting Dragon in the first place. Synthwave was just pushing top side without any TP, and they just ended up trying to chase down CZI, but just too much armor. Just wasn't. It was basically unkillable at this point. And the cavalry arrived, and it was just a complete bloodbath in the favor of Conduit. And Soul actually in the pockets of Conduit. Baron is probably going to be on the table quite soon. And at this point, it's pretty dire for Spire.
I can't remember the last time I've seen an Elder spawning pre-30 minutes. This feels so bizarre, but Yeah, this is kind of just like a textbook example of why you don't draft full AD, because you can look into the inventories of Conduit Esports and it's just armor and more armor and then some damage there for Koopa, but everybody else in the squad is just saying like, hey, we can just build every armor item in the game and there's nobody on the other side who can touch us, because I think importantly also, nobody has built Shred. It's Essence Reaver into IE for Boostis, and Wanderer has gone for the Navori Quickblade second, which means that there's just no Shred, there's no Lord Doms, there's no Black Cleaver, there's no nothing. These tanks are just going to remain tanky throughout the whole fight.
And that's why you kind of see the idea of when you draft AD mid and AD bot side, you take an AP jungler just to spread out your damage profile.
Oh,
but
great temper fate.
Like, just a little nuances. Chong just wanted to slow everyone down, but until you see those third items come out for Wander and Boostis, they're not going to do a lot of damage at all in these team fights. And maybe the play for them is actually trying to get the Elder Dragon and flip this game on its head and win the game just from that.
Yeah, I think that kind of has to be their gameplay, because if this Conduit Esports team can get Baron and can get Elder, then I don't really see a way that the Shadowspire comes back. We mentioned in draft that they are a pretty snowball-heavy team, and if they're not having a lead at 25 minutes in prior, if they're not able to get these solo laners especially really far ahead, they're going to be in trouble at this point in the game. And we're seeing it happen in real time. Synthwave is 0-3, Wanderer's 0-2. These carries that are meant to be able to get through this front line, that are meant to be able to shred them down, and especially the ones that are meant to dive onto that back line and get some damage down, just aren't managing to find anything, as Boostis is going to be forced to lose that flash in the mid lane, just overstepping a little bit too much without any vision and without any teammates.
Yeah, if you're Conduit, you actually don't want this game to be playable in about 4 minutes when that Elder Dragon spawns. You want it to be as impossible to win as possible for Spire, because you don't want to just flip that dragon. You want to make sure that you're able to get this Baron, able to secure an inhibitor or two, or just at least have enough pressure to get enough vision on the bot side where contesting that Elder is impossible. And if you open up the chance for Spire to, maybe just might seal that Elder, it can just cause a lot of issues trying to close out this game.
Yeah, I think that is really just the next question to be answered for Conduit Esports. How cleanly can you close out this game? You've got a lead, you've got the Snowball team on the back foot just playing on their heels, and you have all the momentum here in game number one. How cleanly can you find a pick? How cleanly can you just make this Baron happen for yourselves, Elder even, as well as, speaking of picks, Jung Solomon maybe in trouble, does have that Temper Fate, and manages to cancel out Vidyarthi on that crash down, so will be able to walk away with their life. Loses the flash, worried about the engage from Chris V1, but losing your flash on your Bard at this point in the game I don't think is the biggest loss in the world for Shattered Spire. God, I'm just looking across the board and I'm just seeing how much armor is being built for everybody in this game. Shockwave not going to find a mark on that bottom side there, as now you engage onto Jung Solomon again. They know this Bard has no flash, no Tempered Fate, no nothing. He's just going to get knocked down. And with that pick, I guess there's a potential for Conduit to turn to Baron, but I'm not really sure if the Bard is the linchpin keeping this composition together. So there's a possibility that Shattered Spire can make something happen on this fight. Baron down to 5k, Ward in the pit, Witch of Black Mask looking for some opportunity to get in, does have that Ragnarok, he's in the pit, he's got the Sterak's Gate, the Smite's coming down, but it's not going to be a steal there. Chris V1 is going to lock it down, I think with like 20 health there, I saw during the fight. Shattered Spire will be able to pick up some extra gold on the map off of those objective bounties, but the Baron's going to go in favor of Conduit Esports, and now the rest of the members of Shattered Spire are just trying to run it away, as Boostis will manage to make it out, but Synthwave I don't think will be so lucky. He does have that hookshot wall dive, but with the Cataclysm, hang on, Blast Cone actually is going to make it out alive. Okay. Hang on, I may have spoken too soon. Lashes away from the Shockwave, but Chris V1 is still on the chase. Doesn't have any ability to get back to this Synthwave though, so I think the Camille should be able to get out. He's going to pop that Hexapultimatum. I don't know if they exactly want to fight this one out, as Chris V1 may just be a little bit too tanky. The Buster Shot into the waiting arms of Boostis I don't think is what Wanderer was hoping for. Boostis now is going to get knocked down. Wanderer trying to get some damage down, but just can't break through all the armor, can't break through all of those tanky stats. Trying to get the damage out of the yellow swag, but one Zhonya's means this Orianna is just too damn unkillable. Conduit Esports have ripped open the map, and they're looking to just shut down this game number one.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Yeah, I think something's going on the end of Bully as we're not getting any audio from him, but it looks like Conduit Esports should just be able to lock this game away. They're going to start to rip open the base here for Conduit Esports. First inhibitor targeted down. CZI is already working on the second one. Respawn timers may be short enough that Conduit can't end the game exactly here, but again, the Snowball team is on its back foot. They haven't managed to find a victory in any of these fights. The carries are behind. They're going to start to get armor pen now, but I think it might just be too little too late. They're just not managing to find any extra value in this game.
Oh, I hope my audio works now, but
back.
I think I actually pulled the cord out of my computer. But at this point, just like that, just taking the Elder, it was impossible for Conduit, or not Conduit, Spire to contest it. And
yeah, now they're going to be able to find the fight. Shockwave and Cataclysm. There's the lava combo. Koopa goes unstoppable, and I think it's really just a little bit of a fancy buff to end the game with this. Carries for Shattered Spire, walked up a little bit too far, got locked down, and with a wave, this should just be game number 1 over.
Yeah, and the Conduit, they were able to get a lead early, and they just held on to it. It felt like Spire was never able to get anything going. They got caught out way too many times, and a lot of that is because of how well played CZI played that matchup on the top side, how well played Yellow Swag played in the mid lane, and just the overall team fighting aspects of just being aware of where they could fight and where they could find picks and extra gold to, you know, get to the point where they're going to be able to do a lot more damage and become unkillable. They were able to run away with the game without giving Spire an inch.
Yeah, not even an inch, I think, is exactly how I would describe this game for Conduit Esports. They found a lead early. They grabbed that first grub off of the fight, and as soon as they had a small gold lead in this game, it just started exploding into their favor. And for the Shattered Spire, they had this fully decomposition with no shred, no real go button, I want to say, outside of like a Bard finding a massive Tempered Fate, but it just never happened for them. So they couldn't find picks, they couldn't find kills, they started to fall behind, and they just didn't have a way back into the game once that started happening.
Yeah, I think they had the right idea of, like, the Tristana does very well into Orianna, but they didn't play the matchup right, to the point where you could play Tristana as aggressively as you want as long as your Olaf is in the area, and you'll win any 2v2 because of how strong Tristana is. But a lot of the focus wasn't on trying to get mid lane ahead. A lot of focus wasn't trying to get top lane ahead. A lot of focus trying to get bot lane ahead, when I think the real priority was trying to get mid and top ahead instead of your bot lane if you're the Olaf.
Yeah, it just felt like maybe a mismatch of priorities there for the Shattered Spire, but Conduit Esports Makaba will take game number 1. I think a totally different Conduit Esports than we were expecting to see here, and maybe they can look to close it out just 2-0 if we see another game like that, but we'll see the Shattered Spire can try and fight back in game number 2. We're going to take a short break while we wait to get there, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more AEL action.
Try to make yourself remember, darling. Don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. You were staring at the window, and I said I wanna take you to the sea. And when I'm better selfish that I'm happy as we pass the setting sun. Someday I'll be overcast, but you won't have to cry, 'cause we'll do the grieving while I'm by your side. I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling, don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, 'cause when we're gone, everything goes on. And I'm so scared of getting used to this. All the vines that keep you tethered in your room. Well, someday both of us are leaving here, but for now I'll just bring this seed to you. Will you meet me in the daylight like we did before? Then I felt you on my shoulder and you weren't suffering anymore. You said, I'm sorry that you worried, but don't apologize. I told you to forget me, but you stayed by my side when I said, don't try to make yourself remember, darling, don't look for me, I'm just a story you've been told. So let's pretend a little longer, and when we're gone, everything goes on.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here for game number 2 between Conduit Esports Makima and the Shattered Spire. Conduit Esports coming up big, and I think shocking a little bit here in game number 1, just absolutely shutting the Shattered Spire out of draft and out of game, and have set themselves to match point here, looking to pick up the first win here in the AEL.
Yeah. It almost felt like impossible for the Spire to come back at some point, where there's so much aggressive plays made by Conduit, where they were able to maybe get a pick, maybe they didn't, but they were not punished at all for their cooldowns or anything like that. And I feel like Spire is going to end up doing something else with their draft plans this game.
Yeah, I think something has to change for them. We already see something changing off the cuff, the Jarvan being taken away, so Chris V1 will not have their chance on that one again. And now with Blue Side, I wonder if there's some sort of difference in priority for the Spire, if they want to find some other champion that's going to work better for them. Like, we were talking a lot about outside of draft, like if you're going to pick up this Tristana and you want this AD hyper carrying mid, that does have a good matchup into Orianna, just in a vacuum. You do need some other AP on your team, because once CZI made a couple of good plays in topside and got far enough ahead, he was just unkillable. And the same with Chris V1, and the same with Vidyartha on the Rel in the bottom side. It was just an unplayable game state, I think, for the members of Shattered Spire.
Yeah, and you basically see the same bans coming out, I think. Well, the Jarvan this time is different. Of course, that was a menace in this game.
Yeah, it does mean that Brand is going to make it through, so if Shattered Spire want that one, they can grab it for themselves, but they're going to put the priority down on the Maokai instead. Something else I talked about is just the fact that they didn't have a go button, they didn't have a real engaged champion, so instead, they're going to grab up the Maokai for themselves and just make sure that they have something that they can make work here in game number 2.
Yeah, and it's makes the game so much easier. You could siege easier. You could, engage easier. You could get a lot more picks. And the brand, as you mentioned, is going to be taken for Conduit.
I'm not shocked to see them pick it up. It was one of those bans in game number 1, so now is available to Chris V1, and they have their AP jungler. So if they wanted to lock in something like Tristana or Corki, it's definitely available for them. I will say we haven't seen a lot of Corki in general, or even Tristana, post these nerfs that came through for both of these champions, but the champions are still good. I think we were mentioning between the drafts that Tristana is probably still one of the best mid laners in the game. Corki is still very high up there in terms of power in the lane, but instead Conduit are going to grab the Jinx, and Jinx being paired with a brand, I'm not 100% sure I actually really like this.
Yeah, it brings a...
Oh, no. No.
No. You get to see the Zeri Yuumi lane.
Okay. It's Zeri plus Yuumi. I thought we were done with Yuumi. I thought we put this champion on the bench forever. We realized that the rework was a failure. She just wasn't good, but we're trying to pair it up with Yuumi here for Shattered Spire here in game number 2. And Jinx, I guess in this particular case, Jinx does not have a very punishing laning phase, even if she's matched with something like a Nautilus or a Leona. So Zeri Yuumi is probably just working under the assumption that they're going to be able to have a laning phase that they can just kind of run away with.
Yeah, just picking the Nautilus, just try to get your own go button. Spire already has the Maokai as their priority engage champion, and now Nautilus picked up for Conduit. The second ban phase is going to be kind of unique because there's a lot of pieces missing for Conduit to actually complete this comp, and I want to see if Spire could actually target that.
Yeah, I do think they still need some sort of frontline for this Jinx. You do have Nautilus, but supports are only kind of frontliners, even if they are full tanks. Like Leona, when she's like level 6, is going to be very tanky because she has a couple points in W, she's got Aftershock, but outside of that, she's not really that tanky. And same thing with Nautilus. These champions get very tanky very early into the game, but then just absolutely fall off a cliff because they have no economy. So they do need some form of frontline for this Jinx, and they're not going to have access to Ornn or Malphite. So I wonder what the option is going to be. They do have to blind pick either mid or top here. One of these options is going to have to go without a counter pick. It's just going to be a matter of what they want their blind to be. CZI maybe actually throwing down the gauntlet here and saying, let me show you how to play Camille, but is instead just looking for the Poppy, and I think this is a great option into the Zeri.
Yeah, I like the pick. And that's still a flex. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going top, doesn't mean it's going jungle just yet. So they're keeping their options open what this game's going to be. And Shen, trying to keep the Zeri alive. Let's protect the president. And let's see what happens with this one.
Right?
Yuumi, Shen locked in? It's going to be locked in.
Oh my god, that's locked in. Okay. Shattered Spire, like you said, full protect the president. They are playing for whichever one of their hyper carries gets gold in the early game, whether it be Victor or Zeri. One of these two champions is going to be very difficult to lock down.
Yeah, and I imagine this is actually going to...
Unless they want to play Brand versus Victor, I think this has to be a mid laner. Oh?
Yeah.
The Shyvana that you were talking about.
Yeah, Shyvana, I do think it's actually a pretty solid pick against this team. You can just power farm the entire game and you'll be perfectly fine. And they're going to lock it in.
Brand mid, okay. Brand mid versus this Victor. It's going to be Poppy top versus the Shen, which, as someone who does play Poppy quite a little bit, despite being a support main, I do think this is a good matchup for Poppy. His taunt is very telegraphed, and you have percentage health damage in your Q, so you can sort of just smack him down as long as you manage your mana. And for Shen, it's going to be kind of a rough time trying to actually protect these backliners when you're looking at Brand, Nautilus, Shyvana with all their dive and all their free damage. I don't know. It's actually looking rough again, I feel, for the Spire.
Yeah, and you still got that frontline tankiness that you needed for Conduit. You have the Poppy. Shyvana is grossly tanky as well and does a lot of damage, which is why Shyvana is so good right now.
I wonder what the Shyvana build is actually going to be. I've seen a lot of whispers of Navori Flicker Blades, of AP still being buildable and pretty playable if you want to go that direction, but I'm not actually 100% sure what the option is going to be here for Conduit.
I imagine they're going to actually build like the Liandry's and maybe Shojin with it, and maybe just full AP, but they definitely can't. They can still go live, but
they've got pretty much the whole buffet of
They can build whatever 6 items they want, honestly.
It's Shyvana. She can literally build whatever she wants. I remember there was a time where her like actual best item build was like Blade of the Ruined King plus Leandries plus something else. It was a strange time. I think it was Iceborne Gauntlet at the time. I don't know. This champion has always just been like, hey, build whatever you want, whatever playstyle you want to make happen. It will probably work out. But before we hop on to the rip for game number 2 here between the Shadowspire and Conduit Esports Magma, we're going to send you to a quick message from our sponsor, ProComps. So we'll see you guys after the break. Don't go anywhere.
Quick shout out to ProComps, our sponsor and a game changer app for the League community. This isn't just like the other tools. It's your personal draft coach, perfect for both teams and solo players. In fact, you can pair it with any other app you use. ProComps stands out with features like custom champion pools, personalized tier lists, and live draft advice. Think of it as having a virtual coach and a strategy toolkit all in one. They offer real-time champion ban recommendations. They already have over 200,000 downloads and thousands of daily users just like you. ProComps is user-friendly and totally free. It is a no-brainer to at least give it a go. Download ProComps now and you'll experience a whole new level of drafting power in your league games. Go to procomps.gg, download it from Overwolf, or click the panel below on our stream.
wash it away in damn chase and whispers before they all just fade. So how can I leave it all behind when I refuse to watch it fall to dust? I will find a this porcelain mirage may start to break. Each piece a reminder, every single little mistake. So how can I leave it all behind when I refuse to watch it fall to dust? Tell me why it won't ever be the same. I'll burn it all, no matter who's to blame. I'll find a way. I'll find a way. And every time I close my eyes, a little less of you.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. "30 seconds until minions spawn. Minions have spawned. First blood.
Yeah, it's rough there for Synthwave. I do want to say it's not the spot you want to be in as the Shen, because Shen does really have a lot of early power, levels 1 through 5 in the laning phase, but you just gotta respect how much damage Poppy actually has. This wave is gonna take a trade here, but this wave is rather large, and he doesn't have a jungler. His jungler is in mid lane, looking for the punish on the YOLO swag instead, and Flash available on the brand if he wants to try and make it out here, maybe towards the brush, but is just going to try and play this one slowly out. Maybe looking for a trade. Trash for Flash, traded with Wanderer, looked for the turnaround, passive ticking, but Fleet Footwork plus Potions are going to keep Wanderer alive. A nice attempt there from YOLO Swag, but doesn't manage to find the dice.
That was super close, almost a 1-for-1 trade right there, but only 3 cans finish for the Maokai, and they're going to be going to their bot side. And
Chung has to be careful. Koopa has that ghost on. The Ignite's on to Chung Solo as well. Crispy1 was down here, but with the control ward and with the safety of the Zarya Yuumi, they are going to be able to walk away. But I do really appreciate how aggressive Conduit is playing into this bottom side. This is how you punish Yuumi early game. You just take it to her face and don't let her just sit there doing nothing.
Yep. And at least we know that Chong is in AFK right now, as they had to run a little bit just to get away from Vidarthi. So 1 kill over to Wanderer in the mid lane. Definitely a different look than we had in the first game, as we did see just the Orianna versus Tristana matchup. This time we got the Victor versus Brand, and you know, eventually Brand is going to be so annoying just by bouncing this E on each of these minions, just keep poking slowly but surely, and then getting priority for the mid lane.
Synthwave in trouble again here on the top side. The Keeper's Vertex is going to keep him away, and the nice charge back to deny the taunt. Goodbye, Synthwave. Crispy1 is going to get on the board as well. And it's looking rough for Shatterspire here in the early game, as CZI is making it happen.
That's what happens when you don't take flash. It's actually you have to play a lot more safe, because if you ever use your taunt as a Shen, you don't have any ways to get out of any kind of fight, and that's exactly what happened right there. Chris getting on the board is actually super bad for Spire, as you don't want this Shyvana to get strong, or it's just going to make your way to win this game a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and again, I just want to say, reiterating from game 1, this is a very different look for Conduit Esports than we were expecting, I think. Based on the write-ups and from the footage I've seen and the players that have talked, it hasn't seemed like Conduit Esports has really found that synergy for themselves that have clicked yet. And even today, bringing in a substitute mid laner and ADC, I was honestly coming into this expecting, like, oh yeah, Shadowspire are coming in, like they're 2-1 so far. Their schedule hasn't been difficult, but their only loss is Dorado, so they're feeling pretty good. They should just come in and take a pretty fairly free win for themselves. But Conduit Esports are putting up a hell of a fight and seem like, again, like a totally different beast than what the rest of the league has seen so far.
Yeah, who's their regular mid laner?
The regular mid laner is, I was just looking at them a second ago, it's OTF.
OTF, oh yeah. So I'm honestly, it's not like they're going from all right mid laner to a good one. It's pretty even, so it's not like there's a skill difference of that change, and it just looks like this Conduit team right now is just playing like they have nothing to lose, and they're playing fast, they're playing very, very aggressive, and it's working out for them.
Yeah, the fast and aggressiveness has also been pretty coordinated. They're making the right plays at the right time. They're actually just making things work for themselves. It looks really good, and I wonder if maybe they end up locking in something else for this roster, or I'm just looking for the same kind of setup next week. I know the AD carry is, or not the AD carry, the mid laner is an emergency sub, as OTF has been having internet issues, so maybe they do want to keep Koopa in instead of Mei. Mei has not been having the best season, which is a damn shame to say, because I think Mei is one of the more talented ADCs that I've seen in these amateur leagues. So to see them not having this good of a performance when we see them like over in Titan performing so well, it just feels so rough.
Who knows? Maybe they just the matchup is just more beneficial at this point. But look at the jungle difference right now.
Yeah, flash forward from Vidyarthi, who just does have the ghost flash and the dash over the wall. So yeah, no threat onto that Zarya. A little bit early, I think, hoping that Crispy1 was a bit closer by, but you know, it's Hex Flash on Nautilus. You don't feel too bad about losing that summoner.
Yeah, you actually get better flash. Hex Flash is better, but right here is Boosted gets tagged up once again.
Yeah, Chungsomo is gonna get rooted up, so no ability to lock back in. The Shen is gonna ult the Yuumi now, and now they have to start running away. There's no mana available for it. Vidyarthi, it's a nice little bait there by the Shattered Spire bottom lane, and now Koopa's the one in trouble, has to use that flash. Synthwave still should have the taunt soon enough, but not soon enough to pressure down Koopa. They are just gonna be forced to walk away.
Outside. They might try to stop this, and
yeah, 2v3 here, but Chungsomo has no mana, so it's more like a 2v2.5, as everybody else is actually just going to manage to walk away. Synthwave will catch that Super Mega Death Rocket for boost. It's not letting that AD carry take any extra damage, and somehow everyone except Vidyarthi manages to walk away there.
Yeah, Koopa actually had no mana as well, and Chris also had no mana, but that's just a given. Playing the Shyvana. But massive wave crashing the top side, and there's no response. I feel like the rotation from Wanderer could have been a little bit faster, and having the rotation of Maokai going to the mid lane would have been a lot better, as there's probably 2 waves hitting the turret, a plate going over to CZI on the top side, and the gold lead is about 1.3k in favor of Conduit right now.
Yeah, they're not feeling too bad about the spot they're in, even losing Vidyarthi on the bottom side, and looking for another engager on the Wicked Shot Black Mass, and that's the level 6 from Brand. That Pyroclasm is gonna bounce. It's taking damage. I don't know if it's actually gonna be enough. One more Pillar of Flame will be able to pick up the damage, and now Vidyarthi.
Wanderer, you gotta be careful.
For Wanderer, does have his bottom lane rotating up, so maybe looking to just 2v3 this one out with that Chaos Storm, because Wanderer does do a respectable amount of damage. Boostus is here, but no level 6 available, but I think Vidyarthi should just be able to get locked down here eventually, as Boostus is gonna flash forward to try and find it. Now Chris is in with that Dragon's Descent, trying to get some extra damage down, looking for a potential kill here, but the health bars are just too damn high. I don't think there was any opportunity there for a potential kill, with Koopa just being that little bit too far away. Just nothing doing. Conduit Esports, I was praising them so much, and now it feels like they're playing a little sloppy here in game 2.
Yeah, they could have just gave up that 1 kill and backed off, but unfortunately, 2 kills now on to Boostus, and Boostus was actually down about 30 CS in the spot side, so those 2 kills will make up for it. And so the Zeri that was pretty much pushed out of the game is still very much in it with the extra kill gold, and you have to be very wary of that, as in the bot side they didn't respect Synthwave's standing united, and right there they didn't respect the rotation from Boostus and Chong to actually go up and join that fight.
Yeah, which means that the gold lead is going to be pretty much even out in the bottom lane. A Boost just now about 200 ahead, and you can see that farm difference keeping Koopa active in the lane. It means that there's not just any sort of free engage available for Boostus and Chong, even if they weren't playing Yuumi. So Jinx is still not out of the game, but I think for Conduit Esports, you really want to start unlocking this Jinx and getting her the heck out of this lane and onto the field a little bit more, because as soon as she gets a couple of kills, she can really start to skyrocket out of control in this game.
Yeah, it looks like Koopa's actually in a bank on that IE first item. Oh,
potential engage onto the bottom side, but Chung Salmo doing a good job of catching the zap. Yeah, this is kind of what you do with the Yuumi lane. You try and get a catch. If you see an opportunity to look for an all-in, you take it, but if you don't, you can really just walk away, because it's not like they can punish you regardless. It's another nice stun from CZI, and poor Synthwave is just taking the brunt of the punishment here in this top lane.
Yeah, just being down early, about 37 CS difference in the top side, plus a plate. But so CZI is a very strong poppy at the moment, while Synthwave barely has components to any major item right now.
Yeah, he's got a tier 2 boots though, so the extra CBR available for that Stand United on its next cast, and even for the Knight, if there was any sort of possibility for some damage, like if Synthwave can try and get a taunt on CZI under tower, but it's so scary to try and taunt a Poppy in general when she does just have that W active and available, because anytime you go for the taunt, it's so slow, it's so easy for CZI to just pop that. Even if the taunt does hit, the W will still come up, you'll still take the damage, you'll still be grounded, and it's just rough for you as Wanderer. Maybe looking for a trade on the Yellow Flag, but Chris is here, and they're just gonna knock down the Victor. Absolutely deleted. Not a chance in hell of him living out of that one.
Hey, you know what that means? That's just going to be Dragon number 2 going over the Conduit. I don't think there's any chance that Spire will be able to contest this. And not just the Dragon benefits. They have a Dragon on their own team, so Chris is just going to get a little bit more tankier with that extra bonus stats from the passive.
Yeah, I think as long as it's not a Chemtech third, which I think it actually is. No, it's Hextech. It's actually way better. I saw the Cloud Dragon pop up in the upper left, and I was like, it's Chemtech or Hextech, and it's either really good or really bad, and it ends up being really good for Conduit looking for this soul stacking.
Yeah, and it's going to be difficult. The second set of grubs is actually available right now, and I think CZI might look to see if they could push out Maokai from there. It's just going to be given up as the timing isn't there for Yellow Swag and CZI, so it's going to be 6 grubs going over to Spire.
Yeah, but I think for Spire, the 6 grubs doesn't even particularly matter that much. Like, I guess you'll have some extra damage on Wanderer if he's going to be side laning on this Victor, but you do really want him in the fights being that extra bit of magic damage that your team needs, and maybe you have Synthwave in the side lane taking down turrets, and Shen appreciates the extra help, but yeah, it doesn't even matter. They just wanted 1 and walk away, so never mind, not even 6 grubs. They have 4, so they do get the extra Void Might there on some split push if they do manage to find some room for Synthwave or Wanderer to get to the side lane, but with the spot they're in, finding some angle for split push is not going to be very easy.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, but they do have the ability to use the Maokai ultimate to buy space to just start hitting those towers with the rest of the team. It's a very, like, typical thing a Maokai does. When you're sieging, you just press your ultimate. It doesn't care. It doesn't matter if you're trying to kill somebody. You just go and just hit the tower. Everyone has to back off or they get threatened by the dive. And oh, wow.
Vidyarthi looks pretty all in. They're finding some damage now on the Wanderer, but they're still under towers. So Vidyarthi's taking way too many shots and it's just going to get locked up. Chris V1 still under tower. Is going to get knocked down. Witch and Black Mass with a nice little Bramble Smash to shut them down. Koopa survives on the Silver HP with the Leandry's Burn. The Faded Ashes death ticks away just enough to find the lockdown and pick that one up. And Shattered Spire come back huge in the mid lane off of a big mistake from Conduit Esports.
Yeah, it was definitely just a very aggressive dive. Yes, they were all together, but they just didn't have enough damage just to finish anyone off. And Wander just doing so much return damage right there with the Chaos Storm, and it just...
Yeah,
it felt like Conduit just threw that game right there.
You have to respect Victor damage at this point in the game. Like, he doesn't even have a finished item yet, but it's still Victor. He will still, if you can get a full channel of that Chaos Storm, if you can get people stuck in your gravity well, they will just start to die. Their damage does add up pretty damn fast.
Yeah, and you just gave Victor a couple more kills. Or, yeah, I think two kills, yeah, so... If you're Conduit, you can't make that mistake again, but if you're Spy, you're very happy with that one. But
Wander. Leandry's burnt, not Leandry's burnt, the Rylai slow is ticking away on Wanderer. Crispy one trying to flash forward, but it's a great sidestep from Wanderer away from the Dragon's Breath. Somehow is going to manage to live that one as Boostus is going to catch Vidyarthi lacking here a little bit. They're going to proc that Aftershock and keep themselves alive as Yellow Spike is over the wall, potentially looking for some kind of punish.
Wait a minute. The ultimate from Jinx into the...
Oh,
it's so close.
But I actually managed to pick up the bottom side turret. I saw that kill me pop up, and I was like, no, wait, did it just like turn into the base somehow? It was just, doesn't get the dash over the wall, but it's still going to flash into Koopa. The exhaust burned as well. The Vidyarthi is here, but I don't think you're going to be able to keep your ADC alive. One more auto to the back as Bruce is going to go on a killing spree now. And Vidyarthi, I think you just fed yourself to that Zeri again. It's a double kill for Boostus. And this is the problem with Zeri because if they get a little ahead, they're going to start to snowball absolutely out of control.
Yeah, and that's the problem with just overstaying. You got the kill, and you just have to just start retreating at that point, but they got caught out by Boostus and Chung right there, and it's just a 4-0 Zeri, and on top of that, you have a Yuumi on the Zeri, you have a Shen waiting to use their ultimate on the Zeri, so it's going to be very hard to kill this very dangerous AD carry.
Yeah, Yuumi is just one of those champions that makes their AD
Wait a minute.
So damn difficult to lock down as...
found a wild Yuumi just running around right there.
Stray cat. Somebody come pick up their cat. Look, this cat is not chipped, is not tagged. Chong has to be very careful with how they rotate through here as Yellow Swag wants to find that. He's going to get the stun down alongside that Pyroclasm, so it's actually going to be a Herald steal there from Chris, managing to grab the smite off of Witch of Black Mass. Super Mega Death Rocket doesn't manage to find a lot of damage, but Witch of Black Mass is already dead. It's a nice two-man knocker from CZI. Pick up the double kill for Crispy One. Boostus is here, but I think it's just too little too late. No Lightning Crash available means that you're just not going to be able to find any damage. Boostus is forced to try and sprint away, and Conduit find themselves back in the game.
Yeah, and Spire just fought that without their main damage source. Yes, Victor does a lot of damage, but you're just looking at a Zeri with just 1.5 items, and they're just it. I feel like I've seen that story before.
Yeah, look, Conduit, I was just praising you super hard for how well you've been playing over the course of this game and a half. Please stop trying to dive mid lane tower. Just take the tower and walk away. It's a good objective to take. You get extra money. Jinx gets excited. You get to open up the map a little bit. That's normally what you want to go for in a situation like this, and you don't need to dive to continue to advance your lead.
Yeah, it looks like Chris is actually going to opt to go for the Sojin Leandry's build, and then probably Horizon Focus, third item.
Is it basically really?
Yeah, so Horizon Focus is pretty much like
God, Shyvana's build is so
slot
weird.
for Shyvana, because you just
nukes up.
Dragon down to 4K. I don't think there's a chance for Chris to actually get into the pit. I say that though, it's pretty damn close, so Witch Black Mass is going to be able to land that smite, but now the fight, I think, is just going to be all Conduit favored as they're just getting a lockdown on the Wanderer. CCI is looking for that access to that backline, but in the meantime, Boost is just happily free firing away, so far untouched, but now the blow here from Chris being one. They're going to get locked out. It's 2 kills for CZI. Chris will find one. They'll lock down the cat as well. Synthwave is going to teleport in to be able to find some value, but can't manage to find the kill onto Chris, so it's just here to watch the team die. Blocking some autos is nice, but it's still nearly a clean ace for Conduit Esports.
Spire was able to stop the dragon stacking, but at what cost? Their entire team just got wiped, which just getting Koopa on return. Koopa is sitting on 0-3, but at some point this Jinx is going to start becoming a threat. But right now, the big threat right now is the Shyvana, the Brand, the Poppy. It's just very difficult to cut through these very tanky carries, and that's going to be 2-item Shyvana in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's looking rough, I think, for the Shattered Spire, because they do have this Fed Zeri that they can try and play through, but it's this damn build that I have so many problems with. I understand that it's very good in team fights to have the Runian's Hurricane for Zeri, and for early game wave clear, you do want the static shiv so you're able to manage your wave a bit better, and when you get it procs in team fights, it can be good. I just feel like this build lacks so much damage and so much utility that it really is going to have to be 4 items for Boostus until they really start to get online. They want that Navori, and they want that IE, and I think more importantly, they probably want to Lord Doms as well.
Yeah, I think the problem in that team fight is Wanderer was actually separated from Boostus in that team fight, so they couldn't really combine the damage to start accelerating the Zeri damage in that team fight. Wanderer basically got chunked out to Oblivion and then got killed in the backside when
done by a dragon.
Yeah, and then Boostus was able to get some damage off, but it just was not enough. Couldn't actually cut through these tanks, and eventually Boostus was ran down. Yes, they had a bunch of shields and whatnot, but the Yuumi could not save him. And so that's going to be a common theme here if Wanderer ends up getting picked off in these team fights without Zeri in the vicinity.
Yeah, if you're in this game and you're trading 1-for-1 and you're playing as Conduit Esports, if Koopa's the one who dies and you get to pick up either Boostus or Wanderer, that's a trade you're going to hit accept on pretty much all day. It's like, yeah, Jinx is a hyper carry and she's going to be very threatening when she gets to that point, and when she starts to get like 3 items in inventory, she's going to be very threatening. But right now, your Jinx is 0-3. She's sitting on 2 items. She's not doing a lot of damage. She's not really your primary carry. So if she, dies in a fight, doesn't manage to get resets, it's all right. You have a Fed Shyvana, you have a Fed Brand. Even your Poppy is probably doing more damage than
Chris. What are you doing?
Nice little sidestep from Chung Salmo there. You're going to be able to walk out. They're going to force to lock it out of Vidyard. The fight's going to begin in earnest. Teleport coming in from the Brand. Yolo Spike's trying to get into the fight, but here's that combo damage between Boostus and Wanderer. Boostus did get knocked back, but it's still a free pick for the Shattered Spire. And again, over aggression from Conduit Esports, punched pretty heavily.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily needed to go for that kind of aggressive play, especially because Boostus are right next to the wall, had both sums, was basically not in danger at all, and then Chris used their flash and tried to get a quick pick onto Boostus, but it just doesn't work. They did get they also got the TP out of Yellow Swag in that fight as well. So
yeah, Rick is going to be popped in the base as Chris died with it in inventory. So I think it's just going to start running down mid lane. Somebody might be able to pick that up and get a little bit of a charge out of it, but you're not going to be finding a lot of value out of the objective, unfortunately, despite a nice steal from Chris earlier in the game.
Yeah. I want to see Conduit actually play a little bit slower, where I feel like they've been excelling in these fights, playing slower and trying to take a good fight instead of forcing one. On the flip side, Spire right there, they were all together and just waiting to punish, and that's exactly how they need to play to get back in this fight, because now once Boostus gets the 3rd item, once Victor finishes their 2nd item, which looks like the Liandry's, they're going to start doing a lot more damage, and then eventually if Wanderer gets the 3rd item, they could pretty much one-shot these carries.
Yo Swag has to be careful. Is going to get picked up here by Witch of Black Mass. The exhaust is down, but gets the flash towards the team. And now the rest of the team is going to be able to tank up that Nature's Wrath. keeping that Maokai ultimate away. Koopa is free firing, but just not enough damage on this Jinx yet. Wandering around the side, looking for the blow onto Vidyarthi. That Chaos Storm is going to be able to get that last hit, but Chris in the backline, a massive Dragon's Descent rips apart the front line of the Shattered Spire. Wanderer will be the next to go. They can't even get the trade onto Koopa. There's the fight that Conduit Esports was looking for. A huge amount of damage from their jungler.
Yeah, that was a fight that Spire actually started, and they just couldn't get a quick pick off right there on the Yellow Swag before the rest of the Conduit actually arrived. And in that fight, Koopa actually was a big player because they were able to free fire that entire time as a 2-item Jinx, and they were able to turn that fight around, even though Boosis and Wanderer were pretty much the last two standing, besides Chong, but Chong was on.
It's a
Boosis, so that doesn't count.
Yeah, look, it's a Yuumi. It doesn't count in the fights. It's technically a 5v5. Yes, absolutely, but Yuumi's not really a person there. I've always described her more as like a buff, like an item, you know?
It's like New Age Yu-Gi-Oh, where you just start like putting cards on other cards and calling it a day. And I just never get how Yu-Gi-Oh.
Cat wandering without an owner once again. The depth charge is going to be used onto Witch at Black. Max Yellow Swag is just going to delete this Yuumi off of the map. Thank you, YOLO Swag. And with the support pick, there's an opportunity here, I think, for Conduit to even look for a potential there.
Yeah, it's a pretty big support pick too, because that is the Yuumi that's keeping Boosis very safe in these fights, and it feels like Spire will have to contest this, and I don't think this is actually a finish for Conduit. They're just looking to turn.
I don't know. They do a lot of damage to this buff. Yeah.
They're just actually giving this, and
it turns out double the injuries plus a Jinx does a lot of objective damage. So they're going to potentially look for some kind of trade on the mid lane tower, but they don't have enough damage. We see Synthwave on the bottom side pushing out as well as CZI is going to catch the Maokai ultimate, but no punish available for Conduit Esports. But Shattered Spire doesn't get any extra gold out of the play. It's really just a pick into a free Baron for Conduit.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised there was no contest from Spire because they had the Lightning Crash, they had the Chaos Storm, they have a lot of AoE damage. If they get someone stacked up, they're going to be able to do a lot more damage when every member of Conduit was stuck in the pit.
CZI on a flank here, gets that Keeper's Verdict on the Boostis. They're looking for the damage, but the Zeri still full health, by the way. He's going to finally start to lose a lot of that HP thanks to that Brand Bird, but already one of them is down. There's the Super Mega Death Rocket from Koopa to finally pick up the kill. Kicks up their second and their third, their fourth. It's a double kill, it's a triple kill for the Jinx. Koopa's getting excited! Give them the quadra kill! Conduit Esports have locked this up! The pentakill for Koopa!
That's what happens. It's still a 2-item Jinx. You're getting to the point where even though Yellow Swag, they got a lot of their damage off, and you know, you just have to have your Jinx to finish it off, and you don't want to finish this off a Jinx, a turret. And just...
Koopa, please! You did so well, and then you got locked down by a turret, and now, without the Jinx damage, they can't actually end the game. So,
yeah.
Shattered Spire will manage to stay alive here for now, but Conduit are looking pretty good at this point.
Koopa actually just picked up their third item. It's just a full buy of...
It turns out if you get 5 items, it turns out if you get 5 kills, you can pick up a free item.
As well. And Boost is still not finished with their third item. They're sitting on just a component. Probably the Lord Doms they're going to go for, but it seems almost out of reach for Spire as they're 9.8k gold down. They're 2 dragons down. Stole point is going to be up in 2 minutes, but it just feels like if there's one fight that it just starts, this is going to be all Conduit to win it.
Yeah, with Baron buff, they don't manage to have the soul. It's up in 2 minutes, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even sure Conduit really needs it to finish off the game. I think they're happy to have it because it just makes fights impossible to play. Who's just gonna get that hook somehow? Synthwave is here on a flank angle, but you gotta be careful. That Dragon's Descent does quite a bit of damage. It's gonna get hooked into that AoE fire, and Koopa will go godlike now on the Jinx.
Yeah,
I don't know why Shattered Spire was looking for that fight, honestly.
They're gonna end up losing their bot side tier 2 and probably the inhibitor as well. And you know, maybe Wanderer just wants to use those 4 grubs effectively, just getting them something in return, but at the cost of their own base.
Yeah, the push is coming in for Conduit Esports. They've grabbed that second inhibitor now for themselves. Looking for hooking on the Wanderer. He's gonna get cleansed out, but it's a great Keeper's Verdict to get that carry out for the Shattered Spire. Vidyarthi has to be careful. He's tanking up the turret, but Koopa's already gone legendary. This Jinx starting to get the resets. You gotta respect her damage. It doesn't matter how far behind she got in the early game. You can't leave Jinx alone in a fight. Now Boost is looking for the turnaround. 2v5, he's got this. He's got the static shift. He's looking for the damage, but Chris is finally going to lock him down. Simply might have enough damage to keep the team alive, though. Ignite taking away onto Chris B1. Has to be careful in the Shyvana. One more auto will be able to lock them away. He's finally going to get locked down. The CZI now trying to open up the base. 1v2, but I don't think he's actually going to be able to have it. The Nexus exposed. The Shattered Spires are going to stand strong for now. Synthwave, with the Yuumi on his back, I don't think he's actually killable on this Shen. So CZI looking for a potential angle to try and find a portal out, but just doesn't particularly have it. We'll finally get locked out. I hope eventually someone's got to kill this Poppy, right? Please, thank you, Synthwave. Picks up that shutdown gold, but it's still an exposed Nexus in favor of Conduit Esports.
Yeah, no Nexus towers available for Spire, and it almost was the end of the game, but Boostus actually came up huge. A lot of damage now finished the Lord Dom and also another BF sword, so it can't be the game changer that their team needs. But
Black Mass, you gotta respect it. It's a brand teleporting in to make that play happen, forcing the flash out, of which Black Mass is gonna tank up the Super Mega Death Target as well. As Koopa, I thought they were going for a collector last item here, which I thought was a bit strange. No, they want the Serpent's Fang. They're tired of these Yuumi and Shen shenanigans. No more shields.
yeah, there's a lot of shields on the side of Spires. Shen, the Yuumi, the Victor actually has a shield as well in the queue. So they're like, yo, I'm done. I'm just gonna get this pentakill and do without hitting 20,000 shields. But they're just gonna take that soul, and honestly, yeah, they're just they sort of look like they're going to Baron for whatever reason, but they're gonna catch that top wave and just finish how this game is meant to be played, and just take all 3 inhibitors.
You've already got minions pushing inside mid and inside top, or inside bot, so you can start pushing down the top lane wave and just make life even more difficult for the Shattered Spire, because eventually someone's going to have to go grab that bottom wave. It is fairly far out, so they have time to look for some sort of base defense here. Honestly, if I'm the Shattered Spire, maybe you even just give up this inner turret and look to just defend the inhibitor, as Boost just playing a bit aggressively, though. Wants to get into the face, and now the Dragon's Descent is active. Boost is going to get cleansed out by that Mikhail's, but the Death Charge still active on them, still going to get that knocked. The Redemption, though, keeping them alive, but the damage from Crispy 1 is so huge! The Shyvana burning down the Spire! Absolutely ripping them apart on the front line. It's a double kill for YOLO. It's a double kill for Crispy 1. Make it a triple, and Conduit Esports will clean sweep the Series 2-0.
Yeah, and the Spire just fell a little bit too much, a little bit too early, and they weren't able to get their lanes going. Top side, CZI just completely dominated Synthwave, and this time it was a tank v tank matchup, and last time he won on Ornn against a Camille. This time he won against Poppy against the Shen, and it felt like this game had to be a 2v5 because your Maokai was so far down, you couldn't get anything going. Your Shen was so far down, you couldn't get anything going. And then you just have to revolve your damage around this. Basically a Victor and a Zeri that were put far back very early. Yes, the Zeri did get a couple kills, but at some point they came even with Jinx, and then at the late game, the Jinx just took over. Was the main threat.
Yeah, despite not being the main threat for I think most of that game, pentakill for Toxic Koopa means that yeah, suddenly the game is just open for Conduit Esports. And I mean, look, we understand that this Conduit Esports hasn't been struggling. Their schedule has been not the most difficult, but they just haven't found that synergy for themselves. But into this week, they looked like a radically different team. I think this is the Conduit Esports that we were expecting week 1. They had good synergy in fights. They were able to play them out pretty well. They had a good punish on a lot of the mistakes that the Shattered Spire were making. And they had a draft that was easy to navigate through. Mm-hmm. This is a game where you could see exactly why CZI especially was an absolute threat in any past AEL season or AGL back when that was a thing, season that he's played. And CZI has always been one of the top laners in the league, multiple time all-pro first and second team. The guy's a monster, and it's series like this that remind you why.
Yeah, and, you know, Conduit now sitting at 1-3. Probably tied for at least the 7th or 8th or 7th, 6th, or maybe 5th slot at this point. Spire going down to 2-2 makes them a little bit reachable for that 3rd spot, I believe, right? Yeah.
I do think the Shattered Spire still have the opportunity to stay up and in contention for playoffs. It was a good showing from them. I think at times there were signs of life. They had opportunities. I think their draft really let them down in both games 1 and 2 throughout the series. So I think if they can come back with a stronger draft plan next week. Their toughest opponents are already behind them with the Dorado squad already out of the way. So I think there really is a good opportunity for the Shadowspire squad to come up in playoffs and really surprise a lot of people. So still, I think both of these teams to be respected, but Conduit Esports, huge on the up and up this week.
Yeah, and they should be able to take that momentum going into future weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if this team makes playoffs.
I don't think anybody would be surprised given the names on this roster and the fact that it's just a Conduit roster. This is just what they do. But I think that is going to be it for us here tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us. Bully, thank you for stepping in on such short notice. We appreciate you coming in to sub for Quacks. Wookie Monster, our producer, in the back, making sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible. I've been Brittany. This has been the Aegis Executioner League, and we'll see you next week for more action. Have a good night.